Well, hello there, and then welcome to Hub Beyond Numbers. This is the first video of this playlist, and in this playlist, we'll be looking at everything probability. We'll consider the ins and then outs of probability. This being the very first video, I want to use the opportunity to explain to you guys all the themes, or let me say the basic themes we need to understand before we start the topic, right? So without wasting much time, let's quickly go straight into it. We'll be looking at experiment, outcome, sample space, and then the event. But before that, when we say probability, which we are coming to talk about, what do we mean? When we say probability, what do we mean? Probability measures how likely an event is to occur, right? So if you have an event, we'll look at the definition of events very soon. But then if you have an event, is it likely to occur or is it impossible to occur? Is it certain or uncertain? You see, is it likely or unlikely? Probability measures that for us, right? And it measures that and gives us the answer in numerical values, which can be either fractions, decimals, or percentage, right? So a practical example is when the weather forecasters tell us that there's a 70% probability that it will rain the next day. They have given it to us in what? Percentage. It can also be said to be what? 0.7. That is in decimal. Or 1/7. These are all ways we can express probabilities, and they are all correct, right? So with the understanding, or the basic understanding of probability established, let's look at the terms we'll be using along the way. The first one is an experiment. When we say experiment, an experiment is a process that produces an outcome. A process that produces an outcome. So it produces an outcome. Whatever you are doing, if there's going to be an outcome, then you should know that you are performing an experiment, right? So this shouldn't tune our mind only to scientific experiment. In this case, we can talk of tossing a coin. Tossing a coin. If you toss a coin, you are expecting something. So let's say if it's a match. Okay, so if you toss a coin, you are expecting that you are either going to get a head or a tail. That means you are producing an outcome. Hence, it is an experiment you are performing. If you roll a die, right? If we roll a die, we want an outcome. Hence, it is an experiment. And if we are drawing a card from a deck as well, we want an outcome, or it would produce an outcome. Hence, it is an experiment we are performing. Now, we are talking of outcome, and then outcome. What at all is what? Outcome, as we see over here. So the outcome of an experiment is just a single result of that experiment. Take note here, it says a single result of an experiment. That is what an outcome is. So if you are performing the experiment of tossing a coin, if you toss it just one, what it produced becomes your outcome. So if this moment you get a head, then that becomes the outcome at that particular time. If you get a tail, it is the outcome at that particular time. You see, if it is a die you are rolling, then on your first try, what do you get? If it is 1, then that becomes your outcome on your first trial. If it is 2 or any other number till 6, that becomes what? Your outcome on that particular trial. I hope that is clear. Okay, there are more terms. We have the sample space represented by S, right? The sample space here. It is the set of all possible outcomes. It is the set of all possible outcomes. So earlier on we looked at outcome, right? Now it is just one. If you perform the experiment, what do you get per trial? That is your outcome. But if we take all together, all the possible outcomes. So if it is a coin we are tossing, we can get a head as an outcome or a tail. So if you take all the possible outcomes we can get and we bring them together, we form a set, and that set is what we call a sample space. That set is what we call a what? A sample space, right? If it is rolling a die, then we can get an outcome of 1, we can get an outcome of 2, we can get an outcome of 3, 4, 5, and 6. But if we write these possible outcomes, all of them together to form a set, then we call that the sample space. All right. Okay. Then we are talking of event. Event. So the event is a subset of the sample space. The subset of what? The sample space. So if you go to the sample space and you take a subset you are interested in, that becomes your event. So if it is rolling a die, maybe you are interested in rolling an even number. So out of all this sample space, I am interested in what? Getting an even number. Then that becomes my event. So what is the event that you are going to get an even number? Then we go back to the sample space. We look at all the possible outcomes in the sample space that satisfy the condition of our event. All right. Yes. So this is just a gist of what we are about to learn in probability. If there is anything you don't understand, you can just let me know in the comment section, or it is best you go back and then take your time, play the video over and try and then grasp the concept, because getting the basis helps you climb the ladder. Thank you very much, and then stay tuned for the next video.